it comes to the Las Vegas Golden Knights, they're one of the most interesting teams because if you had asked me without looking at their roster, who I thought had the most complete roster in the West, I would have had a hard time picking between the Oilers and the Vegas Golden Knights. And now that I look at it, I think very much my pick should have been the Oilers without debate. I don't think it's a bad roster. In fact, I think with a few tune-ups, it could be challenging for a cup again very soon. But and I've made an adjustment to the list. Specifically, I put a lead offensive D-man. I forgot that both teams had it this season, both Carolina and Dallas. That's why I didn't see the issue. And I changed this from reliable third pair to 3 reliable post top 4 D-men, which means 3 reliable defensemen after your top 4 D-men. I didn't put third pairing because you can have a top 4 D-man on your third pair. And I altered 7 top 6 forwards, including a 2C, because Colorado would kill for a 2C. And that's their biggest chink in the armor since forever. Okay. Or since 2022. But as we look at this Vegas team, we have to start with they're losing Olofsson. I believe they're losing Smith, Saad, and somebody else. Their decor is staying relatively intact, although I don't. Their 60 isn't great. However, this top 6, there's one small problem with it though, and I'm gonna put a big asterisk next to it. Pietrangelo is not the D-man he was back when he won the Cup in 2019. He's far from it. Overrated and not worth his pay, in my opinion. Obviously, I am a guy who has, at best, played ball hockey, but in comparison, when analyzing the NHL, Alex Pietrangelo is not the first right D on his own team, and being paid that amount of money to not be a right D or a number 1 D man is a bit tough. Like, hold up, let me just go quickly check this out. When you're paid almost $9 million and you're playing to the level of Darnell Nurse, it's not as bad as the Nurse contract because Nurse is paid more. But then again, Nurse is younger, so what do you do? As we go down the list, a true 1C abso-fucking-lutely. Jack Eichel is amazing, and even if Eichel wasn't there, I actually think Hertl would step up in that case. 2 game breakers or 5 elite players. Let's take a look. Game breakers, do they have any? I would say none. Elites, Eichel, Stone, Theodore, McNabb, and I will get into him later. And I'm going to give him Hertl. 7 plus top 6 forwards, including a 2C Hertl. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I would say Dorofeyev proved himself to be a top 6 forward this season. 6 and 7 with Carlson. 4 top 4 D-men. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A goalie who elevates himself in the playoffs. No. A great third line. Howden, Carlson. Obviously, that wasn't the third line. But the third line that Vegas did put together, I really liked. 3 reliable post top 4D. Hag, White Cloud, great. But past that, like here, I'll do a double check. I think they got Korczak and Hutton. My bad for not putting them down here. I'm going to give them it because I think these 2 are really fucking good. And then I'm not the biggest hater. I didn't like really see, oh man, Korczak or Hutton is killing this team when they were actually in the lineup. So yeah, 5 playable lines. Yes. And remember, this is only about this season. Multiple steals on contracts. Abso-freaking-lutely. Yeah. A top 8 coach. Bruce Cassidy's a gem. Now let me do a quick thought experiment here. I'm trying to think of 8 better coaches. I can't right now, so I'm going to give it to him. An elite offensive defenseman, Shea Theodore. As you can see, Vegas, and this is what I'm going to get to. Vegas is the team where if you thought how to build an efficient roster without a bona fide top 10 player in the league, this is how. And I say that, but Eichel, when he's on, can tip his toe into the conversation. Do I think he is a top 10 player overall? No. I think he's top 20 though, which is still very, very good. The big thing is you might think, oh, Aiden Hill was the reason that the Oilers lost in 2023, you Oilers fan may say. No, it's more because we couldn't score, not that Hill was a wall or unstoppable. And as we've seen these playoffs, Hill is not that guy. They need a goalie. That's really what they need. They're going to lose some forwards. They're going to resign some forwards, but they need a goalie. And they really want a new star. And the word on the street is they want to trade Stone and sign Mitch Marner. And let me tell you, I think that's a magnificent idea, and I'm not even joking. Blah, 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 Mitch Marner, no playoff aside. Stone is a defensive beast. He is a guy you want in the playoffs because he's a great defensive. Mitch Marner is a great defensive player as well as a forward. I don't think he's going to be as good as Stone, but what he can't make up in the special inch that Stone has above Marner defensively, he's a far better offensive player than Mark Stone. And I think it would be a net positive for the Vegas Golden Knights if they were to do that. However, that begs a question. Stone's out, you get Marner, let's say $13 million. That leaves minus 3.5, $5.9 million to sign the replacements for Saad, Smith. They're missing a guy. I know they're going to miss someone else out here. These guys are safe. And they need to fix that. Can Vegas get there next year? Yes. All right. This is hard. So the big thing is obviously they're in the same conference as the Edmonton Oilers. The Edmonton Oilers, which specifically next year, because after next year is where I think the complications come in. Next year, they're probably still going to have Bouchard. They're not losing anybody on that decor. And forward-wise, they're not losing anybody too influential. So the big obstacle is how to beat Edmonton. You need a guy. You need a goalie. You need a great goalie. And on the market, is there that this year? I don't know. You could try and get Saros, but I'm going to be real. You're not beating the Oilers with Saros because the one goalie the Oilers are good against is Juuse Saros. Leon Draisaitl especially. You need a guy who can take the crease on his own. The one way you could make the Western Conference Final, hope a team in the Pacific beats the Oilers, is just getting a wild card spot in the Central. Because I think this team against any team in the Central next year, unless Colorado rapidly revamps their roster, I think this would beat them. But I don't see it next year. I don't. Maybe they could get Darcy Kemper. I actually think that if they made a move to get Kemper, ditching Hill, I think it could work. But other than that, I think Vegas is a very well optimized lineup. But that goalie, along with the fact that they don't have the two game breakers, and let me tell you, the two game breakers is far better than the 5 elites. You have 2 game breakers, those guys can win you games. You'd still want the elites. You want about, aside from the game breakers, you want to have at least 4. But Olofsson is the guy whose contract is up. Yeah, I mean, I would re-sign Olofsson as cheap as possible if you can. But yeah. I don't think they need a coaching change. I think Bruce Cassidy's fine. He's a great coach, has been. But they need to fix goaltending in that. In free agency, don't think their answers are there. Again, I think you make a trade. Somebody like Kemper would be attractive, but I think LA probably wants to run one more back. And I think they can, and I'll get into that later. Other than that, ditch Pietrangelo. You are the Las Vegas Golden Knights. You respect no one on your roster if they don't cut it. Obviously, they're looking at Stone because of medical issues. But if you really take a lens to it and you can find someone who values Pietrangelo more than you, I'm looking at maybe in next year's Florida Panthers. You'd want it. So, yeah, that is the Las Vegas Golden Knights. I would do the whole good day, but I hate Vegas. I hate how well they're an optimized lineup. I hate that they have a guy who could have been a Hart candidate a couple of years ago on their second line. But what do I know? I'm an Edmonton Oilers fan. I have a Hart winner on my second line. Okay. Either way, I hate this team. But they are a few screws from being very much in contention for the best in the West. But that lack of guys who can take a series over, that's going to be their downfall. Thank you so much.